I'm Katrina and I am a fabulous book fiend across all social media, YouTube, Twitter, my blog, and today we have a very exciting collab video. Hayley, who will introduce herself in just a second, and I have been buddy reading Chase the Rainbow by Poorna, and we have some discussion for you today about this book, and so I will let Hayley introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Hayley from Hayley Reviews on WordPress and YouTube, and today I am buddying up with Catriona for a buddy read about Chase the Rainbow. So, keep watching.
So basically we discussed the book throughout the week that we read it. We decided on points that we would read up to throughout the book, and we discussed it over Snapchat. So I would send her little video updates. Obviously I am 7 hours behind Hayley in the UK because I'm here in Denver, and so generally I would be behind where she was reading, but sometimes I would be reading in what is my afternoon and she would be reading in her evening, so we'd kind of be reading the same point. And then we decided on 5 questions that we would use to discuss the book. So I will let Hayley introduce the question, give her thoughts, and then I will share my thoughts with you based on what she has said as well. So it is like a proper discussion video, but filmed 5,000 miles apart. How cool is that? So for the first question that we talked about, it's over to Hayley.
How different was Chase the Rainbow from what I was expecting? Now, this is the cover. It's bright, it's vibrant, it's got lovely, gorgeous rose gold lettering. I love a bit of rose gold. And Chase the Rainbow. It sounds beautiful, and it is in parts. It's also very hard to read at times, and in discussion with Catriona through even various forms of social media, we have both sat in various places crying about this book. Hers was a lot more open than mine because she was in a cafe, but it's a beautiful, beautiful book, and I'm so glad to have read it, and I really think it's a good thing that I've used it as a buddy read with Kat. We've been wanting to do a buddy read for ages, and I think this is a really nice way to start. I will also say that since reading this, I definitely want to get into some more non-fiction. I've had a few sat on my TBR for a while, and I think it's about time that I got round to a few more, and I look forward to buddying with Kat once again.
I completely agree with what Hayley said about this cover being quite sort of misleading. Not misleading in a bad way, but you know, you're going into this book and it's like, okay, you know, about rainbows, and then you read what it's about and like, okay, right. But yeah, the fact that this author, this writer, this journalist is just so honest about her experience, I think that's part of what kind of leads to this like rainbowness, because obviously it does deal with dark matter. This book concerns somebody who has decided to take their own life, and we learn about kind of the reasons behind that and the stuff that led up to his eventual suicide, but we get to hear from her point of view, and we get to find out more about Rob from the things that she finds out about him. But really it's to do with, you know, the way she dealt with it, and the way she dealt with it in her own relationship and in herself as well, because dealing with it as part of the relationship and dealing with it in herself was so completely different, and what she takes from it and what she takes from it kind of moving forward. I didn't expect it to be kind of as dark as it was, but it is about, you know, seeing that rainbow despite the fact that it just seems to be rainy and overcast and pouring. It's about seeing that hope and seeing the hope for the future and seeing things from a different perspective. And Hayley is right in that this book did make me cry, so it will make you cry. And yes, I was eating lunch whilst I was reading this and crying. but that's fine. I go there very often, so they don't judge me. It's fine.
What did I think of the structure of Chasing Rainbow? I liked that it was in sections, although at times the italics, which was based in New Zealand, I didn't always get, although it was nice to learn something new. Further into the book, when it became more about Poorna and her grief and what she was experiencing in seeing things and feeling things, I really enjoyed the later ones more than I did of the early ones, although it was nice to get an insight into what Rob may have been thinking and how his childhood and his life had affected him.
In terms of the structure of the book, I basically think exactly the same as what Hayley said. The book's split into Poorna telling her story, and then you've got these sections where, as Hayley mentioned, the writing changes to be in italics, and we've got this bird. I can't remember the name of the bird. I do know the name of the bird, but now that, you know, the pressure's on, can't remember the name of the bird, which signifies the sections where Poorna is in New Zealand after burying Rob, and those sections at first I was a little bit confused by, but I kind of went back and scanned through them after I understood kind of why those sections were in place there, and it made it really easy to read because it was broken up into these sections. And towards the end, when we are finding out more about Rob and about kind of Poorna since Rob, these sections can be really insightful as well, and it makes it, you go, right, okay, so I've read that section, but I want to hear more from what Poorna what sort of thought about this, or what was happening in present time, and so you find yourself reading the next chapter, so it does read quite quickly.
My thoughts on mental health since reading Chase the Rainbow. Well, this is the second book that I have read that has focused on mental health. I read Bryony Gordon's, or I listened to the audio of Mad Girl, which was insightful, and she uses her trademark humour. Although Poorna does also use humour in some respects, which was great because it makes it a little bit lighter to read, even though it's a hard subject. And I do think that hard subjects should be shared, and I think we should talk about these things more rather than brushing them under the carpet, because I think a lot of the time people build up emotions and thoughts and feelings when really we should be talking to them people close to us, whether we're male, female, small child, elderly, man, young woman. We should all talk about what's going on in our lives, really.
Again, just like Hayley, I read Mad Girl at the start of the year, and I also really enjoyed reading Matt Haig's Reasons to Stay Alive last year. Lots of the non-fiction kind of memoirs that I've read do touch on the subject of mental health, and I think that this is a really good example of that. This book and Matt Haig's book, Matt Haig, who is blurbed on the front here, both of them deal with the subject of mental health and men, which in the synopsis of the book, it talks about how, you know, not as much is known about mental health and men. And in the book, Poorna does go into the issue of gender and mental health, and how the issue of maleness and gender stereotypes means that mental health in young men in particular doesn't get as much attention, but then that's partly due to men themselves not saying as much because of the idea of masculinity that's kind of put upon them in society. There's some really, really interesting parts in this. So if you are interested in reading about mental health in men, young men, this is definitely very interesting, because we've got her own perspective and kind of Rob's experience, but then she goes and speaks to other people. She goes and speaks to Alistair Campbell. She goes and speaks to people who work in rehab centres, and she goes and speaks to other people who've been through this as well, and looks at statistics and looks at facts and figures to fit in with what she has experienced, and that's why this is such a well-rounded read.
How would I best describe Chase the Rainbow now? Everyone's lost someone or has gone through something tragic in their lives. And I know this sounds morbid, but it's true. If you're looking for a light at the end of the tunnel in any way, shape or form, this is a beautiful book to read. It's insightful, it's real, and it's thought-provoking. You will sit there thinking of things and little stupid things that you're worried about at this point in time. Once you've read something like this, you'll start reassessing what you're thinking of and why you're letting things get to you about anything and everything. I would say if you are a reader, definitely pick it up, it's beautiful. If you're not a reader, try it. I can guarantee you will love it. We were set on a buddy reading about 43 pages a day each, and I must admit I was meant to be reading this alongside a lot of other reads, but I kind of ditched everything bar an audio read, which is also non-fiction, which I think is quite intriguing, and I don't know what word to say. It's made me think.
Yeah, I would sort of second what Hayley said about, you know, reading this as a book about kind of grief and dealing with grief, and grief in different forms as well, because this does touch on different forms of grief. But also what I said in my previous answer about this book having some really interesting and thought-provoking, as Hayley said, statistics about mental health, and it really shines a light on mental health and also some other issues in a really different way. I think this is it kind of deals with things that haven't been looked at or dealt with or put together before, and so this is a really good book on mental health. If you enjoyed reading Reasons to Stay Alive by Matt Haig, then you will definitely enjoy this one, and the two would be really interesting to read together as well, definitely.
What do I take from Chase the Rainbow? I take a very inspirational woman's words, and I step forward with my life. We all have things troubling us, we all let things get on top of us, but Poorna is the best example in letting you know that it's okay. We're not perfect, we're not meant to be perfect, and if we were all the same, life would be pretty dull. But I'm saying, do what's right for you.
Again, I would really agree with what Hayley just said. I think that, you know, this writer is a really inspirational writer, and she's such an incredibly strong woman, and I love reading books by and about strong women. And yeah, as I say, I've already kind of flicked back through a few things in here to kind of reread and rethink, and it made me really think about when I read Reasons to Stay Alive by Matt Haig, which I haven't talked about reading on here, but again, it's something I would maybe do, reread that one, or talk about some of the books concerning mental health in general that I've read, because I think that it's not talked about enough. That it's talked about more than it used to be, but it's not talked about enough, and I think we need to shine a spotlight on these books that deal with it in really positive and really honest ways. As Hayley said, I enjoyed reading this with Hayley, and it was great to be able to talk about this kind of thing, and we're hoping to read some more things together, and when I'm back in the UK we might be able to actually do a video where we can talk face to face and not sending each other videos across 5,000 miles. But yeah, we both really enjoyed Chase the Rainbow, and thank you very much for watching. All of the details for our blogs and our social media will, as always, be in the description box below, and you can find links to our all our info in there, and if you have read this one, or if you have other good recommendations of books on mental health aside from those that we've both mentioned, then please do let us know in the comments, and yes, we will see you very soon with another video. Bye.